It's a nine-chord banger. Dr. Ross dropping knowledge to the masses. Man, you now tuned in to purpose and practice. Ayy, yeah, purpose and practice. Keep your mental sharp, learn all the tactics. Dr. Ross dropping knowledge to the masses. Man, you now tuned in to purpose and practice. Ayy, yeah, purpose and practice. Podcast game, ayy, he got it mastered. It's encore. It's a nine-chord banger. Dr. Ross.
Peace, family, to the community, purpose and practice. Shout out to all of you out there who are making things happen in the world. All of you out there who have come back and joined us for another episode. Like, it's crazy, episode number 24 that we're working on. Like, we have come like crazy far away to get to episode number 24. We're about to hit the milestone 25 or 25th episode, should I say. And it's all love, man. In the community, I really appreciate all of the love that y'all bringing to the show, checking us out. It's a lot of great things that we have coming up. I just want to touch on a few, but before I even get into that, I want to give a shout out to Tamara. Happy birthday, Tamara, out there, sister-in-law, doing her thing and celebrating her birthday. So it's all good. We are back for another episode. And before we get into, talking about the brother that we have on today and hear more about his story, I just want to talk about one of the important reasons why we do this, what we do at Purpose and Practice, right? So I believe that there's a lot of us doing great things. Sometimes we don't get an opportunity and we don't get a platform or a stage to voice those things and to kind of share our stories. How often do we get a chance to talk for an hour about, this is my life and this is how I got to where I am. These are the struggles that I endure. These are the supports that I had. These are the folks who wrapped their arms around me. And this is the direction that I'm headed in. We don't get a lot of opportunities to do that. So that's what we love to do on this show, is share that truth and share those stories. So these next couple of weeks, it's going to be like family reunion time, because I got straight family coming on, starting with today. And then next week, we got another brother who you're going to hear about. I'm not going to let it slip yet, but he's going to come on. And these brothers are doing their thing, and you need to know about it. Maurice Snell, I'm really interested in hearing about. It's funny because we connected on a project a year or two ago, where he was doing some media work. And I was so impressed with his work, and another person who was on a project was like, all right, Maurice can do that. Reese can do that. And I'm like, who's Reese? Right. So finally, I wasn't even expecting you to come through. Like, finally, Reese came through. And I was like, and then we connected, did work together, accomplished a lot of things. And now you're doing your thing in this whole real estate business, man. You making that happen. Yeah. Mo, how you feeling, bro?
Yeah, man, I'm good, man. I wish the weather was a little warmer, but besides that, man, I really can't complain at all, man.
True. Like, I've been watching, watching, closing after closing after closing. And I'm like, brother doing this thing. And that, I don't know that feeling. I'm trying to imagine what that must feel like. You know what I'm saying? Like, how does that feel, bro? You closing on these houses, man.
Man, it's really exciting, man, because for the average person, or for most people in any regard, this is one of the top 5 purchases of your life. Like, this is true. This is it. This is top. It's going to be in the top 5 somewhere. So it's not necessarily me moving into the home, but you on the team. Like, you won the championship. You closing on that home. So it's just something that's fun to be a part of. It's a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't see. There's a lot of emotion that's involved in it. And there's a lot of talking. There's a lot of therapy work that goes into it to get you across that finish line. But man, when you get there, and you achieve that home ownership goal, it really is nothing, you know, it's nothing like it, and it's great to be a part of that.
Yo, I see it in your face, you know, and
Yeah.
everything you just explained is a perfect explanation for anyone who's going through the homeowner, the process of owning a home. All of those things you just said, it's a roller coaster. It's like you do need like counseling along the way. Like, yo, it'll be all right. Like we go do this. But we'll get more into that real estate thing. But that is like in this country, right? Owning property is like A1. Like that is like essential in this country, you know. So when I see the smiles on folks' faces, because now you are creating a situation where you create generational wealth.
Absolutely.
You know, through home ownership. So, and we're going to hear more about that and what drove you into, you know, that field, and what kind of motivated you to get into that. But before we get there, one of the things that we like to do is we like to go back and find out more about Mo Snell coming up, you know, Mo Snell before he was closing on houses. And if you don't mind, man, taking us on a trip, you know, down memory lane, man, where you kind of go back and talk a little bit about growing up, what it was like, what your experiences were like, you know, both personal family experiences, but then also, you know, what schooling was like for you, what education was like for you. So if you don't mind just flashing back and giving us a little history, bro.
Okay, so like I didn't start going to school in Long Branch till 5th grade when I went to the Anastasia. Before that, I went to school. I went to school in Newark, and then I went to school in East Orange. So a lot of my life was between, you know, exit 144 and 105. Like that. That's how it felt. Like that was it. So it's so funny. Like I said, I watch the show all the time. So I think last week you had Rob on here, and he was talking about summer league basketball. Yeah, and man, it was hilarious because once he talked about that, I can still hear how he would say we'll call traveling, like how he would call traveling, and it was just hilarious to me. So when he talked about that, you know, that's something that always stuck with me. Yeah. And also, Rob was actually on one of the teams of my dad when my dad was coaching the team, and he was like the point guard, and that team was real good. I think they was like 14-1, and they got cheated. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but they definitely got cheated. So it's just great, man, to, you know, to hear stuff like that from other people. Like, like I remember summer league basketball and things like that.
So was this summer league at? And I should have gotten into this with Rob because I was like, I didn't know if he was talking about behind the center summer league or if he was talking about over there by Seaview Manor, like
those summer leagues, over there. That's when I remember. At least that year, that's the year that I'm speaking on was right over there.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So after that, so when I got here for 5th grade, I'm coming from like Newark, East Orange. So to be honest, it wasn't really that diverse. It was just all, you know, all black kids. So when I got here, it was kind of a shock for me to be in such a diverse classroom and everything like that. It was just new to me in some regards. But when I got here in 5th grade, I went to Anastasia. Obviously, I played sports. Everybody knew my family. Like you knew somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody in my family is always like that. So it was always easy kind of to make friends when I got here.
Now, did you spend like summers down here? Like even when you were at work, did you come down frequently even before?
Yeah. So I would spend summers here, and then I would go back, and then in 5th grade, that's when, you know, I came here to go to school and just stay here. Even like going to school was a kind of a crazy experience of like my uncle took me to like sign up for school, and he's taking me around. He took me to Garfield, he took me to West End, and I'm like, I'm not walking to West End, like this is just a far car ride. Yeah. So and he took me to Anastasia. It just so happened Anastasia was the only one that was open. And as soon as he signed me up, he was like, listen, man, we know everybody. And I didn't know what that meant until like I got there. I was like, oh man, we know somebody know everybody in my family.
True. Where did you grow up? What street?
I grew up on 6th Avenue.
So all right. So you was over by 6 in July over.
Yeah, I'm right over by
Okay.
6 in
All
line.
right.
Perry and
All right.
Michelle.
Yes.
If anybody remember Perry and Michelle, yeah.
Yes. True. True. So yeah. So that was an easy trip. Well, because Anastasia. But
The,
did they change Anastasia though? Because it's a new Anastasia school now.
The old Anastasia on Maurice.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. You were at the old Anastasia because it would have been a shorter walk where the new one is.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would have been short for you. Yeah, so you grow up in Newark. Shout out to East Orange, Newark. I got a lot of close friends who live in those areas. I met up in college when I went to college in Jersey City. So you leave Newark, you come down to Long Branch, and you immediately understand and see that this straight up this crazy diversity here.
Yeah,
but that was it something that was welcoming, or did you feel like you had to adjust to that?
It was welcoming. I don't feel it was like too much. It wasn't too much adjustment. It just that it just never happened for me. So that was the only thing. But I didn't feel it was. It was welcoming. It wasn't anything, any lumps or growing pains, anything like that. It was a welcoming experience.
So that's what's up. So you hit Anastasia, head off to the middle school, I'm assuming, from there.
Yep.
Now you were basketball all throughout from elementary on up, or?
Yeah, I was basketball. Yeah, I was basketball all throughout. So that was kind of I thought that was it. If you'd asked me in 5th grade, I'm going to Duke. First round pick, and then we out of here. So yeah, it was basketball all the way throughout.
Yeah, so you hit middle school. So when you were in middle school, did you play for? You didn't play for Hamlin, did you?
No, when I was in middle school, I played for Bennett.
Oh, Bennett was coaching then.
Yeah, okay. Bennett was coaching, and then it was Bennett, and then it was Dillard.
Yes, Mr. Dillard. Shout out to Mr. Dillard, man. That's another brother that put a lot of years in the Long Branch. He moved on to administration in another district, but shout out to him and his mother, Miss Owens, who was my guidance counselor for a minute in Long Branch, and it was she was Black guidance counselor who really did a lot for us. So shout out to that family. So you hit were you on those teams? Were you on a team with Terp won the championship? Were you on that team?
I don't believe so.
What year did you graduate?
I graduated 04. I believe that was. I think Terp they won the championship 05.
Yes, I was going to say. All right, but see, it's crazy though because you were part of the teams that start building to that.
Yeah, so to some degree, to some degree, yeah.
Yes. Because did he get any time on that team that you were on when you were senior?
Yeah.
Because I remember, I was trying to think. I was like, I remember that. So you go off, you do high school, man. What kind of student were you? You could keep it real.
Man, I was. Listen, man. When I got here, I was an excellent student. We talked about this, like my when in your interview with Anthony, you talked about Miss Robinson, and everybody like that's my family. So it's like that it's no games being played. You know what I mean? Especially anything you do can be found out. So
true.
I was a pretty good student. Definitely lazy to some regard, but I was a pretty good student for sure.
Yeah, shout out to Miss Robinson, man. We were talking a little bit. I had mentioned you talk about Miss Robinson, who been in the district in Long Branch, man. I don't know how many years it is, but she's put in mad work. And she knows how to get kids in order with a look. And like when I was there, Gregory, she always had that look that kids was not playing games with. So when you just said what you said, I'm like, all right. I know what time it was. And a shout out to Miss Joan Miner, who's also family kin to you, that I brought up, put in a lot of work in Long Branch Public Schools, some of the Black educators who are like pioneers in education, so I don't want to just, breeze by them because that's real talk. So you do your thing in high school. You play any football or just basketball, bro?
Nah, once I played like Pop Warner. Is like I said, I watched the show, so it's funny. Like I played Pop Warner football. Like Airmouth was on my team in Pop Warner.
Oh, shout out to Airmouth.
You know what I mean? Like so like I said, whenever I watch the show, it's always funny kind of to see where people at. So I played Pop Warner. Then once I got to high school, it was just basketball and track. So
you're a serious student, and out of high school, you graduate high school 04. Did you go right off into college or what did you look after that?
Absolutely. I went right to college. So I went to college at Keystone College in Pennsylvania, which is it's like right outside of Scranton, like kind of northeast of Pennsylvania. So I went right to there, and then the whole college experience, started for me from there.
So when you went off to school, like, did you know like what you wanted to major in? Did you know like how did you find your way there?
Oh man, so I knew what I wanted to major in right away. Part of it was, from high school. So I had Miss Barron for accounting, and that was like my favorite class. I had Miss Barron. Miss Barron actually taught me how to tie a tie. So which is one of the funniest things. So I had Miss Barron, and she was like my first class I had of the day. Like during my senior year, I said, I'm gonna do accounting, and that was gonna be my major. So I already knew what I was gonna do, or I had my mind made up of what I was gonna do. As soon as I hit the college, I knew what my major was gonna be, right out the gate.
So what is it? I don't think I ever had you in class either.
No.
Man.
No. Like you were moving up. You were a teacher, and then I think when I graduated, I feel like you were like administration. You were administration at that point.
Yeah. So what was it about accounting though? Like, how did you know?
I mean, for me, I always felt like I'm just a better visual learner. So I think that's why I always kind of gravitated towards like math, and seeing it and then having to do it is a lot better for me. I know you're an avid reader and a big reader.
Yeah.
I can't read. Like, I like audiobooks. I really don't like sitting down and reading. It's just not, it just doesn't bring me that much comfort. Same as like cooking. I don't really, some people are big cooks. They find passion in and things like that. But but math was just one of those things that I always kind of gravitated to. Then once I found accounting, and then started doing that was like my favorite class.
Listen, man, math. I wish math came to me that way. And I don't like to say I'm not a math person, because you hear a lot of people say I'm not a math person, but I think it's beautiful. Those who are like really, where math comes like easy to them, or those who work hard, to understand math. But yeah, books are more my thing. I can do enough math that I need to do, but books are more my thing. So you go to Keystone, and you major in accounting. You do, is it a dual program, or you just go straight accounting?
I just went at that time. I just went straight accounting.
And so you come out of there. Do you like what is your goal? Like, what are you thinking in terms of, because like I was talking to you earlier about, I want young folks and students to be able to hear these podcasts and start lining up like what careers might look like for accountants. So when you're tackling accounting, do you have a career in mind that you're thinking?
I thought, man, I'm gonna go here, finish with this accounting, then I'm going, JP Morgan, Merrill Lynch. Like I'm thinking that's it. Like that's how my mind was thinking at that time. Like, okay, I'm gonna go and knock this out, and then we out of here. We getting paid. Like that was my mind. That's what my mind was at during those times.
And then what happened?
So what happened was my sophomore year of college, I took an internship at Disney.
Okay.
So it started directly. There's a couple people probably know about the college program that Disney had. So I hadn't never been to Disney. So like, you can work at Disney. I'm like, sign me up. I'm going. So I ended up taking an internship to work at Disney, and it started right after my spring semester and went through the fall semester. So I was there for 9 months. So I went and did the internship at Disney. And when I came back for my sophomore spring semester, I missed all the prerequisites for accounting.
We know how that goes,
right? So I missed all the prerequisites because I was in Disney. So I missed all of those classes that I needed to take. I couldn't do any independent studies because all of the accounting teachers were actual accountants, and that's tax time. So there was no extra time. So after at that time, I had to switch my major to business, and my concentration at that point was finance, because all the classes stay hand in hand, and it still got me out of college in 4 years. That was my you know, it was like, what get me out of here in 4 years? And that was kind of like, okay, you keep all your credits, you don't have to take extra classes, do anything like that.
So you hit the finance market, or not market, but you hit the finance degree, that program all.
Yep.
So, because I said that, you know how that goes. Like college, we live as college students, you live and die on those prerequisites, right? And when they offer them, like it's like, make sure you get them in when you got to get them in, or it can set you back a year or two if you don't do that. So I definitely feel you. So that change. Was that a drastic change though? Going to
it wasn't really a drastic change, and that's the only reason why I did it. It was just like, okay, everything I've done would be everything that at that point, everything I had done would be everything that someone who was going for business and finance would have done. So
would have completed.
Yeah.
So was it worth it, the Disney internship?
You know what, man? It really was in some ways, because of the network that I have of knowing people literally across the world, you know, that having that network may, you know, now in hindsight, it may be worth it. In some ways I'm lucky that I did that.
True.
Like, hey, I'm kind of lucky that I did that, because now, you know, you have friends all over the place, and those connections are very valuable.
I agree. You cannot underestimate the value of connections and connectedness. You know, because a lot of times this is what happens, right? And I always talk to young people about this. And I used to be this way. I was like, just work hard, keep your nose down, work hard, just do your job. It ain't about like connecting, it ain't about networking, just do your job and go to school, blah, blah, blah. And then when I got out to the world, especially in education, I started realizing like, it's this whole world out here that there are folks that you can align with and you could do some great things together, and don't spend your whole career just like on this grind where it's just about like, like the day to day, and you're not taking that time to, whether it's branding yourself, whether, it's connecting, creating and getting your narrative and your story out there. So, I'm happy that you mentioned that, and that's something that you wouldn't have gotten at, at college during those years, what you got down there. So shout out. Yeah. Shout out to that. And Disney, I've read some things about Disney. They got special things they do down there, man. I know one of the things is like no trash stays on the ground longer than, like they it's immaculate, like, like
it's in, especially working there, it's possibly one of the craziest things I've ever seen from a job standpoint, is being behind the scenes at Disney and seeing everything that goes into it to make everything go.
Yes.
Because it's just like, man, we doing, I worked at the Emporium, which is at Magic Kingdom, which is the first store. It's the first store to open, last store to close. So your hours could be, you could start at 7 a.m. or you could be closing the store at 4 a.m. Like, you just don't know, because that's where it is. And it's just like, you put so much into making this one store work. And like, this is just one store in this whole park, and then there's 5 or 6 parks just in Florida. Not every. So it's just crazy to think about, and this, to be behind the scenes of that. It was
and see how that works.
Yeah,
it's one of the things that I like talking when I talk to young people. Sometimes young people think that, their journey is like a straight line, right? So in other words, you go to college, you do your 4 years in college, you come out, you get your degree. Sometimes there's like these different paths that we take. And kind of what you just explained with going off to Disney, that was a risk that you took. And it wasn't necessarily a straight line. It wasn't like when you went into college, you didn't have this thought of, I'm going to go do an internship for 9 months in Disney.
Yeah.
But can you just talk a little bit about the importance of understanding in life? It's not always like this lineup of A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3. Like sometimes you may take these different paths to get to, where it is that you're headed destiny wise.
Yeah. And I'll just say it from a point of, I thought I was doing the right thing, I thought I was killing two birds with one stone by one I'm going to Disney, and then also it was counting as internship credits. So I'm to feel like, hey, I'm getting my internship out the way, and I'm gonna have some fun. I'm be staying at Disney. So I'm thinking I'm accomplishing something, not realizing like, hey, you're missing all your prerequisites for your current major. And like you said, some people could stick with it and say, hey, I'm gonna just stay an extra year because accounting is what I want to do. Or you can pivot and do something else that's similar. Or, some people may fold up shop and be like, I'm out of here. Like I'm done. Like I just wasted all that time. I'm done and I'm out of here. So
yeah,
it happens that way. It's just it's just what you're going to do when something like that comes at you,
And that's why I'm happy you said that. It's almost like it was planned perfectly, because what are you going to do when the situation arises? And that's responsibility, your ability to respond to whatever the situation is, right? So you mentioned that, yo, man, you can pivot, which is a great word to use in this situation. You know what I'm saying? Like you could say, all right, you know what? I'll delay for a couple of years, or you can, the last thing you said, you can fold up shop and be like, yo, did you feel like you had to decide out of those three things, or did it come naturally to you like, yo, I'm just gonna pivot and make this happen? Like, was there ever a time where you was like, yo, man, is this gonna happen? Or maybe it's time for me to bounce? Like, talk to me about
that. Never. So for me, like folding up is just not an option for me. Just from probably from my support system of just my family. And, I feel like a lot of people get a lot of things done. If you have one person that's but in your corner, and I got like 50. So I'm going, you know what I mean? So definitely giving up was never even in question. For me, my thing was I just wanted to finish in 4 years. That was just really important to me, is to finish in 4 years. I don't know. I think a lot of it comes from my aunt, how she spoke to me about college. Like my aunt, she would talk to me about college as if it was the way you talk to somebody about high school. Like, okay, like after high school you go into college, and then you do 4 years and you do. But that's how it was always presented to me. So it was just like, all right, I got to do this in 4. Like you don't go to somebody like, hey, you go graduate high school in 5 years or 6 years. Like that wasn't. That's just not how. That's not how I was. That's just not how I was talked to. So I was talked to as in, you go there, you get it done in 4 years. Like there is no reason why you shouldn't be able to get it done in 4 years and get out of it. So that was one of my goals, was just to get it done. Kept me going. Like, all right, we got to still get this thing done in 4 years, or or could be a problem.
Those seeds, planting those seeds. This is why it's never too early to start talking about post high school, post secondary, we call it in education world, whether it's career or college. I remember, it's funny because in terms of entrepreneurship, I remember Mr. Snell. He, when I was coming up, he was one of the few Black business owners in Long Branch. Right? He owned dry cleaning business on Jaline Avenue, right? And it was so, like, when my grandmother, like for Easter, like we would have to go there to get our suits altered, right? But I'll never forget, because we would go there and it was like, it was different than any other experience in terms of seeing the person behind the counter and the person owning the business being Black. We're talking late 70s, 80s, early 80s, right? And it's something to be said for that, because those were that for me anyway, was one of my first visions of a Black entrepreneurship. And owning something, and having a business. So those seeds that are planted are very, very important. So when you say your aunt taught you about, like, yo, college, this is how, I like how you said she talked about college like it was high school. Like you don't say, 5 years in high school. No, you say 4 years, and you made that happen. So you leave college, you graduate, you go on, you get your finance, and like, what's life after that? Because that's the two tricky times. These are the tricky times that I always, when I'm talking to young people, I say, listen, you have 8 years of your life that are really, really critical. I always think, right? And for me, it's your 4 years of high school and your 4 years after high school. I think that a lot of times those are the years that kind of shape the rest of our lives, right? So you leave high school, you go on to college, you leave college. Does it get tricky for you, or do you land in career?
Yeah, so it gets absolutely tricky for me because again, I thought I was doing the right thing by graduating in 4 years. So I graduated 2008. 2008 is the biggest financial crisis known to of my lifetime.
Yes.
So at that time, getting a job in finance became very difficult because everyone that was getting fired from their higher positions were taking jobs below, and
taking those jobs that the new heads would get like right out of college.
Exactly. So it just wasn't there like that. And also for me, one of the things that also is I went to school and we talked a little bit about your network. I went to school in Pennsylvania. So all of really my job connections of, maybe a professor can help me, maybe someone I know can help me. It's all like, hey, you got to come back up here to take this job. You can't be in New Jersey and take that job. So it was tricky for sure. When I first got out of college, I had to take, just jobs. And I didn't mind it at that time because it was like, all right, I finished college in 4 years. All right, I could just work and then, figure something out. I just need to, just have some money in my pocket and I'll be all right. Something will come along. So that was kind of my mindset right there. My friends were still in college too, because they didn't try to rush and do it. Yeah, they went the 5-year route, so I got to visit all of them, man. So yeah, it was all right.
That's deep that you said that, man, because putting that in that context, that had to be a slap in the face. So how did you get through that period? Like you said, I took jobs where I had to take jobs. Was that humbling for you? Was your ego
it didn't hit me till about year 2. Okay. So that first year out after you graduated, and then it's like, all right, something's supposed to come along by now. Something was supposed to happen by now, and then it was like, man, this is really, and that crisis, it continued, and this when really from 08 to 010, it was bad. True. It was really bad out there financially for a lot of people. So that continued for a little bit. So I understood what was going on, and I ended up so at that time I ended up talking to who I still talk to, my college advisor at that point.
Okay.
And he kind of told me, hey, he said, hey, he gave me just a gem of advice. He's like, hey, listen, right now, how it is, a lot of people want you to intern to see if you can really do the job, and then then get so he was like, listen, because I switched majors, so it was kind of the same deal of you could take a couple more courses, do an intern, and then do another internship for for this major, and maybe that'll get you in the door. And that's pretty much what I ended up doing to kind of get myself going.
So you kind of gave it away.
Yeah.
You give away your talent and your ability to showcase.
Yeah.
So, I think that's very important. And I think that ego, that's why I asked you, like, because you think, I'm out of college, and I was fortunate enough to come out of college with a degree, able to teach and get a job right away as a teacher.
Yeah.
But I always think about, like, if I wasn't so fortunate to get right into a profession immediately after college, what that time would be like for me. Would I have like wavered off into like, in a whole totally different direction, or like you said, folded up and said, so when you talk about like doing that internship, man, not unpaid, what was your mindset like? Like going into that, and not getting that check,
Yeah.
every 2 weeks, every week. Like, what was your mindset that kept you motivated?
So my mindset was that, like, if I can get in here and I can show my worth, like, it's over. Like, that was pretty much it. That was always in my head. Like, once I get in here and once I talk to people, it's over. Like, I'm gonna be all right. I just need the opportunity to get through the door, and that was really it. So I did that, and it pretty much went, how I envisioned it. I did the internship. They said, hey, you were a great worker, hard worker. We would like if you stayed, and that was, that was that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the internship, and then even the career that ended after that came as a result of that internship. Give us, like, what was that? What were you doing?
So I did an internship with a credit repair company in Eatontown called Better Qualified. So I was just doing processing work, just filing, make some copies here and there, and I was just young. So if anybody that's out there that knows, when you're the youngest guy, you're also the IT guy at that point.
Doing
you know all this stuff, like how you do this, how you do that. So, I was processing. I was kind of IT guy, and we had a marketing guy there. I had to help him because I was the only one that even knew what he was talking about, and the only one that could help him. So I would kind of split my time, between processing and helping him with marketing.
Wow.
And then obviously the internship ended. So that was kind of like my first year, is just doing a little bit of both and helping him, because I was the only one that knew what he was talking about and knew how to help.
Wow. Because now I'm starting to see how we connected a while ago on the marketing thing, because that's the angle that you brought to that project. So, and it came as a result of you, like, all right, I got to roll up my sleeves. I got to intern. I got to do this. Young people, don't get discouraged when you come out of college or come out of some type of training situation and it's not immediately followed up with a paycheck. And I know it's easier said than done. Like, I know it's easy, but for you to kind of go, all right, I'm gonna grind this, and I like that attitude. If I just get in the door and they hear me and they see my work, it's ball game. Like, that's the kind of confidence that you brought to that, and then you start, you get into I'm doing IT because I'm making everything happen because I know how this works. I'm doing the marketing thing, and what is, like, how does that kind of like evolve for you? Like, you do that you do the internship, you have this opportunity, then what comes next?
So what comes next was the marketing guy leaves. And it was funny because he called me in. He was like, hey, I'm letting you know I'm leaving. And I was like, man, where you going? Like, if you're leaving, like, who's replacing you? Like, who's coming in? And he was like, he was just kind of like, he was like, nah, man. He's like you're replacing me. Even though I learned some stuff, it was still a little bit of baptism by fire. Like, there's still some stuff you need to figure out on your own. And I began to do that. So after that, I kind of stepped into that marketing position and began to go into, using Adobe, all the Adobe products, as far as from designing, as far as Illustrator, Photoshop, everything like that. And then I end up, eventually I end up even taking like online classes to get my master's in marketing, because there became a time where who I am doesn't match what I'm saying. Like, like, what'd you go to school for? I went to school for finance. Like, well, why are you telling me about, I knew that period would come. Like, well, how are you telling me about marketing? Or there would be times I couldn't explain a concept properly. I would just, I didn't know how to properly state it because it wasn't my background. So going back to school to understand, hey, single market, single product market, like how to multi-level, like understanding why things work and why things are the way they are and how they're tested, and and how they're presented in front of people to make them do, So it was good to get that background to understand and present better than just learning on your own. And there's nothing wrong with learning on your own, but it will come a time where you need to have a conversation or be in a conversation, and you need to understand the technological terms.
That's just what I was going to say. That technical language.
Yep.
It's important. And I hate this because you can know it and it can be innately like, yo, I know this word. But sometimes it comes down to, can you communicate it in technical language that is established in whatever that market is. Like it comes down to speaking the language.
Yeah.
And one of the things, I talk a lot to young folks about is code switching, is the ability to be able to speak the technical language in whatever it is, but then also the ability to be like, yo, what's going on? What's good? How you feel? And sometimes, we don't put enough value in being able to do both.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you brought that up, because it's good to know that technical language, that piece is important, even if you know it like the back of your hand, even if you can sit down and write it down on a napkin and explain it to your boy. Like you may have to go into a boardroom and explain it to a different group of folks who are waiting on that technical language.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that you hit on that. So, yo, man, this is a journey you on. You're taking us on, on this journey, man. And one of the things, Les Brown, I don't know if you're familiar with Les Brown, motivational speaker, off the hook.
Yep.
And I always share the story with my son, because his story in terms of, he said he was working at a radio station, right?
Yeah.
And he was the guy going to get the coffee, doing IT stuff that like doing that back end stuff, the stuff no one else wanted to do, right? Interning. He was an intern. And there was one guy who, he said he would always either get drunk and not be able to do the show, blah, blah, blah. So one time the guy didn't show up to the show, right? And the producer says, all right, Les, he ain't showing up. You need to do it. He said, me? And he said, yeah, you. And Les got on, did the show. And this is a true story. And the rest is history. And if you YouTube or Google Les Brown, you'll see where he is now. And you'll hear that story. Because when you said that, because when that marketing person left, it was like a void. And you was like, yo, who's replacing you? And he's like, you. That's deep. That's the, and you must have felt overwhelmed in some sense, but also like, yo, this is a great opportunity.
Absolutely. That's a lot of it is just like, a lot of it was overwhelmed of like, all right, I need to get up to speed, because I can't have this drop to a level below where you're at.
Yes.
Because then that's a problem.
Yes.
So it was just more of, all right, I need to make sure that this at minimum is maintained, and then go from there. So that was like my main focus. Like, hey, I need to be able to, at minimum, do everything that he can do right now to this exact moment, and make sure that we don't go below this point.
Yes, the show must go on.
Absolutely.
So, and that's that pressure.
Yeah.
So, like, how long? Like, now, I want to start moving into the work that you're doing now.
Yeah.
So, is there a space in between any of the things that you're doing now, or is there a bridge that connects to what you're doing now with real estate?
Yeah. So a lot of when I was working at the credit repair company, a lot of the marketing was you're working with real estate. Typically those are people who are in need of credit services, someone who's looking to purchase a home or purchase a car, or things like that. So being around that, you're around a lot of mortgage and real estate related professionals. So in designing things and making things, you need to know those fields as well. Like I can't design something and just copy and paste it and not understand it, and they'd be like, hey, that's not right, because that's not how this works. So I worked that job. I was there for close to 7 years. So a lot of the real estate I've been around real estate for for that long, because that's what I'm doing. That's who I'm working with. Or, you get your clients of, hey, I'm trying to get a home. I need this. Like, oh, like, okay, like so you really do need your credit score to go up
in order to do those things. Yes.
Do those things. And so it gave me a huge lesson on credit. And I mean, man, I know you've had other people talk about it as far as financial literacy and things like that. And if you don't understand your credit, when it does come time to buy a house, that crash course can be a lot to bear. It can be, it can be heavy when you get that crash course of like, oh man, like I'm in a bad position.
Yes. The interest rate that you get, if it comes down to, and even, like obviously with the down payment, but PMI, like all of these things start factoring in, in terms of like your credit, and what you qualify for. So you're right. Like that, and a lot of it's good that a lot of people are more conscious of their finances now, I think, than before. And I mean, I just think about me. Like, I remember going to college, my first year in college. We can get a credit card by just like filling out a survey, right?
Yep.
So I go in first year in Jersey City, fill out this survey. I get a T-shirt, and then really, real talk, 2 weeks later, I get a Discover card for $400. And at that point, I'm like, $400
for nothing?
Yeah. So I don't even know how credit works. I don't talk to anybody at my house because it got my name on it. So I don't talk to my mom. I just my dad. I'm just like, yo, I put that thing in my pocket. I never forget. Got on the train to go back to Jersey City, hit the path, got to Newark. I got off the train, got to Newark, and I said, yo, I'm gonna see if this credit card works. So I go buy me a pair of sneakers, and I'm like, yo, it worked. From there, the next 10 years of my life was like credit card debt. Like, because I wasn't doing the math in terms of like, yo, this is not free money. Like,
not at all.
So is that the kind of work you would like, you school people on that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and it was that, and it was, people just not understanding and just not knowing. Luckily for me, I always been pretty good with math. Like I said, I always been a math guy. So, your credit score is an algorithm. So for me, that's you talking up my alley of like, okay, I kind of figure, I kind of can figure out what needs to be, what needs to be done and what you should be doing. So to correct something, rather quickly. But if you're not, and even from this standpoint of, when you talk about financial literacy and home ownership and things like that, if you look at now where credit is, and you can check your credit score on just a click of a button on a phone or an app, and you can kind of determine if you're going to get approved or denied. Like that's today. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when we don't have that technology. My parents don't know. They kind of have a feeling what their credit score is, but they don't know. And it's a roll of, it's kind of a roll of the dice every time you apply for something at that point when you don't know what you're doing. So when it comes to things like, hey, could I buy a home? It's like, I don't know if I want to roll the dice or put my name down for that, because I don't know. And the technology was just not there, and the knowledge was not there. If we're talking about the lack of financial literacy now, back then, imagine going back, and me, I'm out of high school 20 years. So imagine going back 40 years if the financial literacy isn't there. So it's just one of those things, man.
And that's when when you start saying about generational poverty versus generational wealth, because you talked about you said that you had to go back and get technical language, right? And I kind of equate that to the same thing as some folks. You go back 40 years, like you said, there were some groups who had even then an understanding of credit. They may have, your wealthy groups, your middle class groups. But then there may have been other groups who didn't really have an understanding of that and how that worked. So they didn't have that technical knowledge. So it began to impact. And that's why when you start talking about intergenerational poverty and things like that, it's not by accident. Like these things kind of happen over time, because like my parents, they weren't able to sit me down and talk about credit. They weren't.
No.
They
wouldn't know what to tell you. They would just be like, hey, don't spend too much. That was the general, the general consensus.
But you got a charge card? That's good. And I'm like, I'm blowing it. Like this is like 94, somewhere 94. I'm just blowing it. And I'm like, I'm thinking about my kids. I'm like, man, they go, no. Like, no.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, no, it's not that. So I think that, educational point that, that having that technical language to understand it is important, man. So you're making this thing happen now. You're educating folks on things like credit. When they're coming into situations to buy homes, you can on things like that. What is it, your day-to-day right now, in terms of helping folks get into property, into homes? What is that like, man? Like how talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I'm still, I've had my license for a little over a year, so I'm still, I'm still fairly new in it. So a lot of it for me, with who I talk to, a lot of it is education regardless. I got to give you education on myself, and I also have to give you education on the market, how it is. The pandemic only threw another level of unknown, and there's not much advice for a pandemic unless you were alive during the Spanish flu. Like that, you know what I mean? Like there's not much. There's not much advice to give you on that. So you have to navigate that as well. And so it's good. It's some of everything, because as long as it's good, because we have lower interest rates right now. So a lot of people, they can understand that. They understand low interest, and hey, 2.5 is lower than 3.5. This is good for me. So a lot of people can understand, the lower interest rates, but they also have to understand the level of competition is rising
because of that.
Because of that, and also
the buyer market. Yes.
It's more buyers, and then also because of our location of where we're at, you also have a lot of people who are coming from New York City, coming from northern New Jersey, because they can, they know the beach will be open, regardless of what's going to happen, and so it creates a level of competition. And a lot of people look at buying homes as if they're buying like articles of clothing. Like, oh, I'm approved for that much. It's for sale for that much. I got it. And it's really not like that at all. It's really a situation where that's a one-of-one that you're bidding on, and it's not just that simple like that.
You brought up something real important, because real talk, right? The era of when everything crashed, we had bought our home. Real talk, we bought our home in the August before everything crashed.
Okay.
So basically, we got just like taken to the cleaners, because we bought it at a market price that was 6 months later. It was like maybe $150,000 depreciated. Okay, like that. So, but what you're saying is so important, because now people are literally knocking on our door, trying to buy the property for cash. Because of what you just said. And it's funny because there are people from New York City coming in trying to buy up the property because of what, and that's why when you just said that, I'm like, yo, that's real.
Yeah.
Like that is so real. Like people are like, yo, I'll offer you, if that's what they're offering you. Okay, I'll offer you $50,000 more.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Yep. Just that.
That's crazy. That is, it's funny because I was like, yo, where is this coming from? Like out of nowhere,
Yeah. And if you look at the, if you really think about it, if you think about the whole, the whole pandemic situation and everything that was going on, and you think about, okay, what was open? I mean, the beach was literally the only thing that was really open. I have friends that were coming from New York to come to our beach. I'm like, what you doing out here? Like, it's the only beach that we're bored, and it's the only beach that's open. So I think that also put a sense of worst case scenario. If we do move to there and everything gets shut down again, at least we know we can go to the beach.
Yes. Yo, I never thought about it that way. Yeah. I'm just seeing like, yo, where's all this coming from? How are these houses selling? Like, cause I'm looking at my neighbors. I'm like, yo, they just sold that for that. Like, I'm like, we need to sell, But at the same time, Maurice, it's funny that you said that, because I'm like, we need to sell, but then it's like, where are you gonna buy? Because the market is so competitive.
That's the it's like a lazy Susan. Like, you just switching spots. So like, okay, now I sold, now I gotta buy somewhere.
Or am I gonna have to go rent somewhere? Like, that is crazy.
Yeah.
That you just hit on something that is real for me. Like, that's something that we're really dealing with,
Absolutely.
So you're doing this home ownership, man. And we started off the show. I talked about the importance of home ownership. I think that's one of the most important things, man. Like, to start setting up. If you can set up, and we always say, like, yo, unfortunately, our parents weren't able to leave us any real estate, right? Our parents did what they did. They raised us right. They the best they could raise us, they raised us. But my wife and I, when it comes to, we weren't left any property, and we always say, like, we want to leave property for our kids.
Yeah.
So then they have a way, almost like a leg up in a sense. Absolutely. To have, some type of property. Do you get are you getting a lot of first time homeowners who are kind of like, going to be these people who are setting up this generational wealth?
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely, you deal. Especially me, because of my age and my peer group. A lot of them they're buying their first home right about now, right about this time in their life. They're buying their first home. So that's a lot of who I deal with, and for me, the way that I approach it is, and it's not anyone that's buying their first home, like you're Dr. Rawls deal. Like, they call you Dr. Rawls. Nobody ever goes and you say, so when did you graduate to become?
Yes, they don't find out.
Nobody wants to. Nobody really ever asks you that. And I feel the same way. Just about homes. Like, I've definitely met people who are older and they're like, you know what? I'm too old to buy a house. And it's like, what? Like, what you talking about? You're too old to buy a house. Like, when you buy your house, no one's gonna say, oh, did you you just now buying your first house? Like, no one asks that question. Yeah, you're a homeowner. Like, congratulations. Like that. No one, no one asked me, like, oh yeah, so what year did you graduate? They actually, do you graduate?
Yeah.
They
don't ask that. Like,
how many years did it take? How many years did it take to graduate? How many this? How many that? So, and it's the same way I feel about home ownership. If you have the opportunity to do it, go ahead and do it. You're not too old, or you're not too young. Definitely not. You're definitely never too young to get started in the process. You're never too old to get started in the process to find out, what you can do.
Yeah, I think, it's funny because, and I say that you're too old, but let's say you're a little more advanced in life, right? And you buy a home, but you have kids.
Yeah.
And I've seen this happen. Where, okay, maybe you get to a point you can't take care of the home anymore. But because you planted that seed, I've seen miraculous things happen where the kids kind of be like, yo, we keeping this house.
Absolutely.
And they start rallying around to make everything happen to keep the property. And then eventually that property is now passed on to another generation and another generation. And then you begin to build wealth. So I like that you said that you're not too old. Like, it's not transactional. Like it's even with education, I say it's never you're never too late. Because that seed, it can end up like harvesting so much more that you would never even imagine, you know. So I appreciate you saying that. Yo, man, like if you had to say, I'm gonna go back a little bit now, right? Talk to us about Disney. You know, you talked to us about you had these great mentors growing up, especially your Mrs. Robinson. Shout out to Mrs. Robinson, a pillar in the community, been doing her thing in education. Like, yo, generation. Somebody put up in the chat earlier, I forget who it was, maybe Maria. Like, yo, she taught me how to read. Like, that's so. Did we say more? You know, but anyway, like, talk to us about if there was some type of advice that you had to give yourself as a high school Mo Snell, what would that be?
Oh man, it's so many. It's so much advice that I would give myself back then. You know, wasting how much time, not taking advantage of all that free time I had. It's like, man, I would kill for that again. I would kill to just be like, oh, I can just get off school, go home, and just watch TV all day. Like I finished my homework, I'm done. I ain't got to do nothing. Like to have that, to go back and get that free time is, I mean, if I could get that back, man, I give every dollar I got to get that one back.
With the mind that you have,
if I could tell myself that, man, go, really go back and take advantage of that time, and so many people that I remember growing up, so many people like, oh man, if I could go back in time, man, I'd have took care of my grades. Like I must have heard that growing up. I might have heard that, 50 to 100 times. And man, I'm here today. Like, man, if I can go back, man, I really would have put a lot more time in, using that time to study more, to do this, to focus on those grades. And, especially now, a lot of like kids, I've seen a lot of kids think like, oh, when you're telling them something, like you're trying to stunt their growth, or you're trying to like, a lot of the things that I feel like are going on is not like an older person like hating on you, even though they may be putting something on you that is their fears. But a lot of times the reason that they're putting those fears on you is because it happened to them and they don't want to see you get hurt. And that's the angle that I think people have to kind of look at, that when someone says, hey man, you might not make it to the NBA, or you might not, you might not be, this famous person. They're not really saying that because they're like, I don't want you to do that, or I don't want you to become that. They're just saying that from my past experiences, man, I had somebody who thought they was going to the NBA. It didn't work out for them, and it didn't turn out well. They may not articulate it like that, but a lot of times that's the scenario. And it's not really, so it's never really, and that's how I felt in my younger self. That's kind of how I was taken. I was like, man, they hate me. They just hating on me, man. They don't want me to, like, I know what I'm doing. So I think I would go back on that, and a lot of those people that were telling me things, I would ask them more questions. That was another reason that, a lot of people would say, man, if I would go back and I would fix my grades. I never really then turned around and said, well, why would you fix your grades? Like, what happened that is so important? Like, what's your grades? Like, I never asked that question. And I must have heard the question 50 to 100 times.
You always do. Yeah.
I never asked that question. I just said, all right, whatever, man, you blew it. And went on my way. But I never really took the time to ask somebody, well, why were the grades, like, why you feel your grades were like so important, like in your life? And then, then you hear their story of working jobs that they don't want to work and missing out on opportunities they couldn't get because of, whatever reason. So that's what it is, man.
Yo, it's serious, man. And then you feel like you just living just to do this job that you're not even passionate about. And that's why when I see like your posts on social media, I'm like, yo, this brother getting joy out of putting these folks in homes. Like, so when you get up in the morning, you feeling like a superhero. Like you feeling like, yo, I'm about to make it happen for somebody.
Absolutely.
When you had that feeling,
Yeah, that is the man. That's the best. It's the that's one of the best, man. Especially the phone call. Like I said, man, it's not by any means. It ain't all sweet. It ain't all. It take that a lot of that joy that you see in that picture is, man. It was a long road to get here, and we finally did it. That's where that joy comes from. Is, man, it was a long road to get here. And we finally got to this point.
Yeah, and it's like I think about. I was talking to someone, and it may have been on another pod. I forget, but we were talking about as a coach, because I coached. Like even when you were playing, I was coaching the girls while you were.
You were coaching. Exactly. I think you were coaching and wrestling at that time.
Not just the football,
just football
and basketball, girls basketball. So basically, what happened is it was like. I was talking to someone. I was like, they were like, what's the big deal about being a coach? I said, what it is that you can coach every day. You can be in practice telling a player, this is what you need to do. And this is why. And for a whole season, let's say basketball, 20 games, they may not do it for 15 games. Right. And you watch film, you're like, see, I told you, I ain't going to say no names because you would know. I told you. But long story short, the 16th game, they do what you've coached them to do. And then there's no words. They just look over during the game and they make this eye contact. And it's almost like, that's what you were talking about. And there's been so many on the football field. And that's how it is. What you just explained with that home ownership, because it's like this roller coaster. But then you guys reach that. And this pinnacle, it was like, you got the house, here are the keys. And like they're looking at you, like, it really happened. And there's even for you, it's part of like, there was times I was doubting this.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I didn't know he was gonna get. So it's definitely, man. It's one of those things. It's one of those joys. It's hard. It can't be replicated, man. It can't be replicated at all.
I know. I can see it in the pictures. I'm like, that's love. That is like, and you become a part of their history, and they become a part of yours.
Yes.
And that, that's beautiful, man. Let me ask you this, as we wind down, if folks wanted to get in contact with you, if they're like, man, I'm thinking about buying a house, I'm not sure, because again, you're dealing with a lot of first-time homeowners. So they have cold feet. They're like, I'm not sure if I can do it. Like, how do they get in contact with you? If you could just talk a little bit about that, so that if folks need to reach out to you, how they may do that.
So you have you have my social media, you have all my social media tags scrolling. So anybody can contact me there, DM me. Whatever you need to contact me. I work at Remax Synergy in Long Branch.
Okay.
It's on 95 Brighton Avenue. So right across from like Surf Taco. That's where our office is. That's where I'm at now. Okay. So you can always feel free to stop in and ask for me. Or most of the time I'm usually, if I'm not out doing something, I'm usually there for the most part. So feel free to stop in and a lot of people, even if a lot of people start off their conversation with me like, hey, I got a stupid question to ask you. Like the stupidest question is the one that asks. Like that's the only dumb question. So if you have something to ask me, just ask me. I'm not going to attack you or tell you to beat it or anything like that. I'm gonna give you the best advice that I can. So if you just have a simple question or something that you feel is so simple that you shouldn't have to ask it, and you feel like Google isn't giving you that answer, and you want to ask me and say, hey, can you look into something, or can you kind of help me figure something out? Feel free to contact me, man. Feel free to ask me.
Thank you, brother. Folks, if y'all listening, you thinking about a home, first home, a second home, a third home, he don't specialize in only first home, time.
But buying, selling, renting, leasing, whatever you're trying to do.
Let's contact the brother, build him up. Because a lot of times, and at least I know with the community that I emerged from, it wasn't comfortable. No. Like I didn't feel comfortable with a real estate. Like it was a process that was different and new to me. So folks like you, bro, like you can make that level of comfort higher.
Yeah.
So that, I want people to be able to, to know how they can reach out and how they can contact you. And we salute you, bro. Like, yo,
yeah, man,
yo,
you doing one of the things, man, that I think a lot of people do that. I call it, and this was with anything, I call it analysis paralysis, where they just study something and they keep talking about doing it and they keep talking about doing it and nobody ends up doing it. And a lot of people always talk about, oh man, I love to do something to highlight the things that are going on in the community and oh man, I know all these people, but they never actually do it. And then you know what I mean? Like I know, and like I said, I've been watching this from the beginning, and I know you were like, hey, like I'm just trying to put this thing together and make it happen. And now you're doing it, and now it's going and it's building and it's growing and everything like that. So this right here of what you're doing is great for people to see as well, is because sometimes you got to get going. You can't sit there and just keep reading up on, I'm sure there's 1,000 more podcast books you could read before starting, but you didn't do that. You just went ahead and started. So you know what I mean? You can't get caught in reading up on something so much that you don't make action.
I appreciate that, bro. That paralysis by analysis is so true, because you'd be like, yo, it's not the perfect time. You're waiting for that perfect time. You're never going to know everything.
Never.
You're never going to know everything. And I think back to my first episode with Mr. Encore. Shout out to Mr. Encore. To now. And I'm like, yo, I watch him sometimes. Like I'll watch that episode and I'm like, yo, my growth is crazy.
Yeah.
It's because of the practice. It's because of going through it in the experience. So what you just said, that goes with everything in our lives.
Absolutely.
Like, yo, you gotta help out there and do it. Like you just gotta make it happen, yo. You can't just keep reading the books on real estate.
Yeah, you can't just keep reading about, hey, I listen, I read every book on how to drive a car. Like that's great. At some point you gotta get in that car and you gotta go. You can't keep reading and tell me, I know you know everything about the engine and this and that, but can you drive the car?
That car.
You gotta go, man. You gotta make something happen.
Yo, man. I'm like, I stopped using the term proud. Usually when I talk about like students, former students or younger folks, I say I'm proud of you. But now, man, I start turning it into, I'm inspired by you. Because even me starting this show was an inspiration from a former student. It was, Mr. Encore. I told him like, yo, you inspired me to do this. So that's how I feel about you. We love you here at the show, man. Your family to the show, on many levels, and you know that. And we're gonna stay in contact. There's some projects we talked about before this that I'm gonna be reaching out to you about to bring to the people. But to the folks out there, Purpose and Practice, yo, let's salute Snell, Maurice Snell, Reese as my like I know Reese, that affectionate name,
exactly.
It's love, man. It's love, and we appreciate you coming through and spending this time with us, man. We really do.
Like I said, man, thank you for having me, and man, I'm just happy to be on. Like I said, I always watch it. So once you hit me, like I do it, it was just tell me a day, and we'll figure it out, and we'll make it happen.
And we're gonna keep figuring it out, because the days are endless, the weeks are endless. The folks that are doing these great things like yourself, man, I'm booked for like next year. Like people are really like this is about people, man. This is about us, in the stories. Like, yo, I'm just trying to bring them to the folks that need to hear them. So we're gonna keep doing this, as long as we here, and we're gonna keep evolving. So thank you for the time. A shout out to you, and if you're in that market, yo, hit the brother up. I think that I strolled like 4 or 5 ways to hit him up. I mean, it'll be on the Facebook, it'll be on the YouTube. And we wish you well, bro, and keep doing your thing, for the community. So with that said, to the Purpose and Practice community, We're about to sign off. Once again, we appreciate everyone who supports the show, everyone who tuned in tonight. Thank you. Mr. Booth, thank you for reaching out, asking, about the health of Tiff. We really appreciate that. And she's getting better. So with that said, we are going to sign out from the Purpose and Practice podcast. Peace. Be safe. We will see you next week. We got another family member coming through that's gonna put some heat, yo. So peace out, and I'll see y'all next time.
It's a 9-core banger. Dr. Ross dropping knowledge to the masses. Man, you now tuned in to Purpose and Practice. Ayy, yeah, purpose and practice. Keep your mental sharp, learn all the tactics. Dr. Ross dropping knowledge to the masses. Man, you now tuned in to Purpose and Practice. Ayy, yeah, purpose and practice. Podcast game, ayy, he got it mastered.